What's up, beautiful people? My name is Presley Kane, and today I'm going to be talking about how to pick a college major. I'm a third year accounting student at the University of Georgia, and the original idea from this video comes from a podcast between Lex Friedman and Matthew McConaughey. Lex is talking to Matthew, and he goes, "What advice would you give to young folks?" And then you can see the response here.
What advice would you give to young folks
What advice would I give?
in high school and college that are thinking of how to make their way in this world?
If you haven't already, can you define what you have an innate ability for and match that with what you're willing to hustle to get?
Yeah.
Sometimes we have an innate ability, but we don't want to work for it. And we take it for granted. And we end up doing something that may work, may pay the bills, may get us by day to day, but we don't really like it. We have trouble finding a way to enjoy it. Definitely don't love it. And then sometimes we don't know what our innate ability is, and we're hustling and working our tail off and breaking a sweat to do something that we really aren't that good at on an innate level. And that's a good challenge. And you can work and become good at something that you don't have an innate ability for. But if you can match those two, what do you have an innate ability to do? Because what we have an innate ability to do, when we do that well, we do kind of enjoy it.
Yeah. And one of the things that requires is to kind of be really honest with yourself at what your innate ability is. Because oftentimes there's a lot of noise when you're growing up, people telling you what you're good at and not good at. Like, really, you have to look at yourself, listen to yourself, that inner, like a deep, rigorous self-analysis of what am I actually good at. Not what I hope to be good at, but what I'm actually good at.
Right. And then if you look at that and you can define those two, hopefully you can activate it in a way where there's a demand for what you supply.
This clip can be broken down into 3 simple, actionable steps. Define what you have an innate ability for. Which of these gifts are you willing to hustle for? And then third, is there a demand for this skill that you can supply in some way? So in an effort to help you find what you have an innate ability for, I'm going to walk you through my process of going through these steps, and these are the exact steps that I went through to get to my end conclusion of accounting at the University of Georgia. From my understanding of life, we had very formative years early on, and these are the periods in our lives that really dictate what we're good at and what we're not good at for the future. When I was young, I loved playing soccer, Legos, Thomas the Trains, RC cars, building marble Lego towers, regular Lego towers, marble towers with things that weren't Legos, making paper airplanes, folding origami, riding bikes with my dad, walking the dogs, catching pets for my playpen, whether it was turtles, lizards, whatever you can think of, digging in the dirt, building sandcastles, trucks, bulldozers, trains. I've always had a fascination with those and how they worked and operated. The outdoors, fishing at some points in my life. Me and my dad even built a kind of a deck out over the dam on the water, on the other side of the water, with trees that we cut down. He did most of the work. I'll admit, he did most of the work. So, as I tell you these things, none of these are accounting. So, Presley, how did you choose accounting as your major? Well, I found a commonality between all these things, and I figured out what is that commonality. It's, at a core, taking raw materials and building something. I wanted to focus on how things are made and then how to build them. Also had a very early fascination with money, and that was presented to me through social media. My granddad and great-granddad were businessmen. They were contractors. So it's in my family. I sort of knew about it, but I had no interest in it at this point in my life. Then I started scrolling through social media, seeing these young kids with Lamborghinis that I now know were probably rented. But nonetheless, this drove me inside. This created a fire that would not be satiated without more knowledge of business. So I buy my first Instagram business course at 14 years old, regrettably, but I learned a lot about life from this course. Not so much business aspects, but life in general. I do not think I would have been able to create a successful business at this age because I did not know enough about life. I still don't know a whole lot about life, but I'm learning and growing every day. So why did I not choose engineering? Because I knew engineering had a hold in it. I knew that if I designed something, I knew nothing about the money, the marketing, anything to do with the actual selling of the product. And I knew in my mind that if I just made a good product, it wouldn't be enough to just make it. People had to know about it. So I chose to do the business side instead of the product side. And I figure, I can always go to a developer and tell them some crazy idea I have about a product. And I want to know the business side. I want to know the money side of it. I want to do accounting because accounting is the hardest thing I can do in business. I knew that I wanted to do business, but I didn't know what type of business. So I chose the hardest thing. And then I feel like that's never a bad point in life. Choose the hardest thing and then dial it back from there. I decided to stick with it. And this is a great segue into the next point, which is, are you willing to work for it? Choosing the hardest thing in business, which is accounting, and it is also the understanding of the entire business itself, taking all the raw materials, the building blocks, the pieces, and building the business, building a holistic picture of how it operates, the systems behind it, and then showcasing those systems through documents of stockholders' equity, of income statements, of balance sheets. That's what accounting is. So, am I willing to work for it? Well, I have one accounting class left in my entire career at this point in my life. So, yes, I'm willing to work for it. I have worked for it. But how did I know that I was willing to work for it going into it? Well, I was able to do it. And I think if you're able to do it, you're able to work for it. But I think that something that comes from this is a very strong why. And that's something that I focused deeply on in my last video on two videos ago on how to really propel yourself to anything you want to do. I framed it on how to transition from a small community into a larger community in university, a small high school community to a large university. But it's really applicable to anything, and it's having a strong why. And what motivates me is personal, but it's intrinsic. It is everlasting, and it is a goal that will be achieved possibly upon death, possibly never. And that is a very strong goal because it is what will make me stay up later and wake up earlier. So step 3, is there a demand for what you can supply? So you have your innate ability, and are you willing to work for it? So you have your innate ability and what you're willing to work for, and is there a demand for these two things? Because if there's no demand for these two things, then you shouldn't do it because you're not going to be compensated for it economically, which is important. Now that we're getting into the logistical talking of college majors, obviously there are rankings of what pays the most, but what pays the most might not be what you find enjoyable, so there's a happy balance there. One thing I would encourage everyone to stay away from is not all liberal arts degrees. I think communications, I think English, I think these degrees are really good because you, at the bare minimum, know how to form arguments and understand literature and rhetoric. I think that is incredibly valuable. So how do you find if what you want has a demand? I think there are two different ways that you can provide value to the world. You can either be entertaining or you can provide a product or a service. And kudos to you if you can do more than one of those at the same time. If you can provide a product and a service, or if you can provide entertainment and a service, or you can provide entertainment and a product, that's what it's all about. The more of those that you can combine, the better. So for myself in accounting, I am providing a service. I am doing taxes. I am doing people's financial audits. I am doing work for others that is a service industry. Or you could go into engineering, which is making a product, which is a product. Or you could go into stand-up comedy, which is like entertainment. You could do a podcast. You could do a YouTube channel. This is entertainment. So I am combining entertainment and service to create this channel. If you're good at entertaining, if you play with other people, if you're deeply knowledgeable about the areas of human nature, absolutely play on that and build your career around those skills. If you love serving others and being of service, build your career around that. If you like creating things that you see other people use, build your career around that. There's 1,000 things that could go into each individual one of these, but I think it's important that you pick one, hopefully 2 different categories to align yourself with, so that you can always be economically beneficial throughout your life. So, what specific college majors are best for things like this? Well, business is mostly service from what I understand it to be. The actual creation of a business, you're creating a product or a service to sell, but the selling function of a business, the operation function of a business, the accounting function of a business, most functions of businesses are in service to the product or in service to others, because you're providing value to other people. Whereas, okay, you're an engineer, you're building things, you're providing a product for other people. Whereas, okay, you're a doctor, you're providing a service to other people, you're helping them get well. You're a pharmacist, you're providing drugs to other people, you're helping them get well. You're a English teacher, you're providing a service to people, you're teaching kids how to learn, how to read and write. And I realize that I'm talking a lot about STEM majors because that's quite frankly the only thing I can really speak to. I am not a communications major. I've never been a communications major. I know nothing about gender studies. I don't know much about liberal arts degrees, but I do know that there's a very valuable skill from a liberal arts degree, and it is the ability to explain yourself and use rhetoric to get your point across. You're skilled in reading, you're skilled in writing, you're skilled in understanding and learning. And I realize I'm kind of talking out of my ass this entire video because I haven't done shit yet. I haven't even graduated college. I've picked what I want to do in life. I know exactly what I want to do in life. But I think that there's a uniqueness about what I bring to the perspective of this, because I'm a college student trying to figure out what I'm doing in this life. And I'm maybe 10 steps ahead of someone that's a freshman right now, 5 steps ahead of someone that's a sophomore right now, depending on your maturity level and what you know what you want to do in your life experience. So my goal is to help the people that are 5 to 10 steps behind me get to where I currently am. I'm not here trying to pretend to be someone I'm not. I'm not here trying to pretend I know everything about everything and I'm a career specialist. That's not my job. That's not my goal. My goal is to get you to where I am currently, because that's all I can speak to. And currently, I know that I have defined what I have an innate ability for. I know which of these gifts that I have that I'm willing to hustle to get. And then 3, I know that there's demand for the skill that I supply. This has been episode whatever reframed. Thank you, beautiful people. Thank you for watching. See you later.